Good morning, my beautiful people and relatives. I'm honored to be here with all of you, with each and every one of you. It's always such a great honor to be able to come and welcome all of the beautiful people that come to this beautiful land. Zalmasa Pluhi Squest. Almasa is my Indian name, or I like to say my Spokane name, given to me by my late grandmother, Cecilia Abrahamson. She was a member of the Coeur d'Alene tribe, and back in those days before her, our people didn't consider themselves this tribe, that tribe, that tribe. That was given to us by the people that came, and they separated us. And in fact, my grandmother, part of her mother's family, part of them went to Coeur d'Alene, part went to Spokane, somewhere in Flathead. So we're all one people, and that's why I tell that, because our people are indigenous people that honor one another, and it's not about separating us, because we are one people. No matter what you say, we're still one people. Tum Plusquest Pluhin, Pauline Stearns. My mother is Pauline Stearns, or was Pauline Stearns. She was a member of the Spokane Tribe. She was actually the first woman elected to the Spokane Tribal Business Council, which is the elected leadership of the Spokane Tribe. And so I'm always honored to say that. Mestum Plusquest Pluhin, Leroy Stearns. Leroy Stearns was my father, and he was also a member of the Spokane Tribe of Indians. Sidon Plusquest Pluhin, Magnus Abrahamson. Magnus Abrahamson was my maternal grandfather, and his roots go back all the way to a Sulu Stu, who was a tribal member, or a Kalispel tribal member that came over the mountain and married at Upper Spokane in Twila Valley. So my roots go back to Twila Valley. Chichia Plusquest Pluhin, Cecilia Abrahamson, my maternal grandmother, a member of the Coeur d'Alene tribe. She also was a tribal leader of that tribe, and just a proud lady that really believed in her culture and tradition, and she knew it. And she taught as much as she could to her children and grandchildren. A beautiful lady who was taken from her home and put in a boarding school, lost her father, or not her father, her older brother and two sisters to tuberculosis in the boarding school. So she was traumatized as a young child, or a young lady in the boarding schools. Kenneth Plusquest Pluhin, Catherine Andrews. Catherine was my paternal grandmother, also a member of the Spokane Tribe, a beautiful little lady, just tiny, and she loved to dance. And when she was dancing in the war dances, she would be always smiling. Skepa Plusquest Pluhin, Leroy Stearns Sr. My paternal grandfather was Leroy Stearns Sr., and he was a non-Indian who came from Wisconsin. His family roots came from Wisconsin, and before that, I don't know what boat he came over on, or his ancestors. But that's who my family is. I was always taught by my grandmother and my elders that whenever you address somebody or a crowd, you always tell them who you are, where you came from, and then maybe they can make a connection. And maybe you can create a relationship just by that connection. If you go on the Pion side, you can go back all the way to William Pion, Baptiste Pion, who lived on the Pion Prairie near Spokane Mountain. So I have roots there too. So that's who I am. As stated, I am the chairwoman, actually, of the elected leadership of the Spokane Tribe of Indians, the first chairwoman of the tribe. So feel really good because for me it's not I'm here to save anyone or anything, but I think it's important to always have the woman's perspective in elected leadership. And thank you. And I only bring myself to the table, and I have to be honest with you, what it brings is a calming. It brings some type of calming. You know, you have your mother, you have Mother Earth, and the ones who bear children, you know, you bring love, kindness, and just a beautiful presentation of bringing life into the world. And so that's, I think, what the woman's perspective brings. It brings that touch of warmth, of love, of caring. Not to say that the male role does not provide the same. They do, and it's important that we have both perspectives. So that's about me. And about my people. As stated, this is the homeland of the Spokane people, of the Spokane Tribe of Indians. My ancestors were a beautiful people, a loving people, a caring people, a salmon people, a river people. We sustained off of the salmon, and those beautiful fish every year would leave the tributaries of the Spokane River, make a long trek, a 4,000-mile trek to the ocean, and then 3-4 years later they would return every year, all the way up the Columbia River, up the tributaries, up the Spokane River, all the way to the Spokane Falls, right down here in Riverfront Park. You can go look and see, and that's where they came to spawn, in those deep pools. Just beautiful, and my salmon chiefs, the ancestors and their salmon chiefs would regulate the harvest of the salmon, and because we were kind people, we always shared it. We shared it with the community, with the other tribes, with the non-Indians when the non-Indians came into this land, and so it was a beautiful thing. And like stated, we haven't had the salmon. Because of the dams, we haven't had the salmon in this area, which was a tragic, to my people, a tragic historical trauma that caused a loss of culture, tradition, because all of the ceremony around welcoming the salmon back every year to give itself to us so we could survive. There was so much culture, spiritual, traditional practices that revolved around that beautiful fish, because it is what sustained us, that we lost a lot of that. Some of the language around the salmon ceremony. And so my people have always said, the elders have said, bring back the salmon and we can heal. Bring back the salmon and our children will heal. And so my tribe has always said, we may have been the only one for a while saying, we will bring back the salmon. And the reason I'm talking about the salmon is because today my tribe is doing a release. We are releasing 50 salmon in Shimmikin Creek to go out. The little salmon, I think I don't know what they're called, fingerlings, and they're going to go out. We're going to let them go out so that we can start the process of bringing the salmon back.
Yeah.
And actually, I got a secret. We did this a couple of years ago, and when we do this, we use science. So we put some type of tag in them so we can track them out and track them back. We had one come back this year. It came back. And of course, it's not going to get over Chief Joe or over Cooley Dam, but it got that far, and the Caldwell tribe graciously allowed us to go down and take that salmon. So now we will have a ceremony around that beautiful salmon that came back to us. So I just wanted to share that with you because that brings joy to my heart and to the tribal members that sit in the room. So I'm just really honored to be here with you, all of you. Scallop, good people of peace. I know that you stand for peace, and I share your value. My people share that value. The indigenous people of the world share that value with you. In order for us to survive as a people, as a race, we need to have peace. First of all, we must have peace within. That's here. We must, each and every one of us must have peace within ourselves. And then we must have peace with one another. Each one of us must have peace. And one of the things my grandmother taught me is this. Would you, each one of you, turn to the person next to you and shake their hand? So all of a sudden I see everyone smiling. Isn't that cool? That's wonderful. My grandmother taught me, and you know, my ancestors had all of these beliefs and these practices that now our scientists prove why that is. What does that do to your heart, to your mind? When you greet one another, when you provide warmth to one another. I know it does something to, is it called serotonin and dopamine? That's what the scientist says. But my ancestors knew this. They knew this. You be kind to one another and you're going to spread love and peace. So it's important that each and every one of us have peace amongst each other. It's important that we have peace in our families. You know, there's so many families that are broken. They're broken amongst each other. Brothers and sisters, fathers and children, mothers and children. You know, we need to go to those people that we have and bring that peace and love back. It's important that we have peace in our communities. We must all get along. We must have peace within our cities, within our states, and within our nation. And beyond that, nations must have peace amongst each other. We don't need war, we need peace. And so I just really feel that if we provide kindness, warmth, love, and peace amongst each other, we will heal the whole world. And when we come together like this for the purpose of peace, we can do it. Because we do it here, we feel it, we go out, and we do it with everyone we come in contact, and it'll grow, and it'll grow, and it'll grow, and we'll be there. And so that is what I'm thankful to you for doing this, for standing up for peace, and for sharing it with the world. Lemlunch, thank you for that. Thank you. And now what I would like to do is share a blessing, an invocation for this event. Whenever I pray or offer an invocation, I never do it to offend anyone. I don't normally think or prepared invocation. I kind of just do it from the heart. So sometimes it comes out, sometimes it don't. Sometimes, you know, and so I'm just human, you know. So I'm going to do the best I can, and You know, I never want to offend anyone, so if you must, pray in your own way. Cox Chowie, please stand. Colin Sutton, Lemlunch. Thank you, Creator. We just thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for all of the gifts that you give us, for you give us so many gifts. You give us the air, the water, the land, the birds, the fish, the salmon, the eagle, the deer, the elk. For all, you give us so much. Thank you for the people. We just ask that you be amongst us today. Be in our hearts, be in our minds, and just bless each and every person that is in this room. Fill their heart with love, fill their heart with forgiveness, fill their heart with hope and love. And we just ask that you keep all of their families safe. If they're away from their families, keep their families safe. And if they had to travel to get here, help them to have a safe journey home. We just ask that you continue to be with us and help us to bring peace amongst ourselves, within ourselves, amongst ourselves, within our communities, within our nation, and amongst our nations. Be with us, Creator. Be with us always. And we are forever grateful to you. In your name we pray. Thank you, and may you have a wonderful conference. She Uhoy Lenwich. He is an elder from our tribe, from the Spokane Tribe. He's also a relative of mine. He would be my father's first cousin, and of course he comes from Sulu Stew, the one I told you about, and he's what we would call a younger elder. An elder is someone that doesn't self-proclaim themselves as an elder. An elder is someone who everyone out there looks at as being a leader, as someone that when they speak you listen, and he truly is an elder. He has worked for the school district his whole life, teaching our language, teaching our culture, and teaching our tradition to our youth. He's a wonderful elder of our community, and we treasure him. He teaches us the songs of our ancestors, and so I know he's going to share a prayer and song with you this morning. Pat Moses from the Spokane Tribe. Come on up, Pat. It's an honor to introduce you, Pat.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. We'll do a song here in just a minute here. The song goes back about 160 some years, back to the late 1850s when our people were fighting for their way of life. It's like the sign up here says, sacred land. Our people at that time still do see our land as sacred, the water being sacred. So our people fought to try to preserve their way of life back in the 1850s. And that's where the song comes from. The song, when I sing the song, I think of people like Carol, Deb, Darlene, others that try to preserve culture best we can. Because when the warrior sang the song the last time, they would end his life. And imagine that when he sang the song, he thought about, will this be the end of Indian people? That Europeans would come to America, to the Northwest, and taking their land and everything, that was just going to be the end. So I imagine having a noose around your neck, knowing that when you finish a song, your life's going to end. And in that time, I think he thought, with the people 100 years from then, and they now they still retain language, culture, customs, ceremonies, beliefs that people did back then. So I think this song was kind of a prayer reaching out, touching hearts of many people. Every tribe now has, I think, language program trying to revive the language. And some tribes don't have any elders anymore. They have a lot of documents and recordings, but all their elders passed on that teach the language. We've got a couple left that are up their years and have health issues, but we've still got the people that still were around to hear the elders speak many years ago. But some tribes, they've lost all the elders. So that word sacred means a lot of things to any people. So when I sing this song, I think about those that are working with the tribe, any tribe, the best they can to preserve the culture, language, history. Not long ago, I came to the Spokane Tribe, another tribe. He had a concern. He said, the day comes when many people stop speaking the language, stop ceremonies. The government may come and take your land, saying there's not many people. That's what makes it different. All the people, our culture, language, history. We share that with other Indian people, but no one else in America has our unique culture that we try to hang on to. Well, that's one thing what Carol was talking about. My teachings, I've learned from my teachings with elders and spiritual leaders and other things, talking about when you leave this world, you can't leave with hate, anger, jealousy in your heart. You may cross over, but you go, with the final doors, you have a waiting time until something happens that you're about to go to the final doors because you left this world with hate, anger, jealousy, greed, whatever it is that makes you tick, or makes you tick in this world. So when you die, you may cross over, but you don't go through the pearly gates because you left with anger, hate, jealousy, greed in your heart. Now, I learned that from being shared with me from other people that seen up on the other side that didn't cross over because they didn't make it all the way because they left with anger, hate, jealousy, and greed. So I keep that in mind that many people in the North claim to be Christians, but yet they still hate other people because of the color of their skin, their religion, those kind of things. They hardly believe that they call themselves Christians, but they hate other people because of the different religion, skin color, language, that kind of stuff. So I keep in mind when I hear people talk about, when they pray about people that, in this world, our soul's got a pure, heart's got a pure. Every time we sweat, which we ask the grandfather to take any anger or hate that we have in our heart and our soul, that they be cleansed. So that if we make it during the next day, then we'll have a clear road to get to the other side where answers are waiting. But if we leave this world with anger, hate, jealousy, greed, all those things that make people sometimes street judge other people in bad ways, sometimes they have a hard time getting to the final part of the journey to catch up with their ancestors. So I keep those thoughts in mind. So I've learned a lot from my culture, from teaching from elders that I've been around. Like Carol said, I knew her dad was my cousin. Deb later on, I knew her dad, just two great men that served in the Korean War. They were sent there to do their job. They come back. They never came back with good big hearts. I mean, they're good men. I mean, they didn't come back with anger, hate, jealousy. They just came back and raised families and worked hard and really outstanding men that served the country and came back and became a good role model for me to look up to. And like Carol said today, they're releasing salmon. That's that took a long time in making, but that happened. Once they built Cooley Dam and the salmon stopped coming up. So today they're releasing salmon in the Shimkin area, and I think Cobb was about the Keller area, the ferry, they're releasing salmon up there. I was asked to be there today, but I said, well, I had to be here today because I committed to be here. So it's a big day for our tribe to call people to have salmon back in the river, and maybe in time they'll salmon go back to their ancestral spawning grounds, and we'll have salmon again in time to come. So that's just really a fantastic thing to witness to happen today in our waters. So I'm glad to be here today just to share the song. I guess my nephew Gerry sang this someplace, and so I heard him sing the song, and they really touched their heart. He's out doing something else today, couldn't be here, so I'm kind of filling in for him. And he's another one that's, in a few years, he's learned the language very well. And he teaches it to other teachers that are willing to teach other kids, so he's done a great job as far as starting from point A to getting to point C, D, whatever you want to call it, on the scale to be improved, be whatever, people that knows all of language structure. This area we're at here, because of the falls, because Pet, when you fast water the falls, everything has a name. Pet, that's the name of this area among people. So it's called Pet because of the falls. And this is a big fishing camp many, many years ago for salmon. Salmon was a big part of our diet a long time ago. I was talking to someone that came talking to us the other day that they said their Silo, their grandfather, we had a fish market here in Spokane. They have fish scraps. They come and bought fish scraps. That was just how that wanted to taste fish. They go to the fish market, fish scraps, go and boil and fish scraps. And I remember those times too when elders come to the fish market and buy fish scraps, and they were happy just to have those because it brought back good memories of the fish that were no longer in rivers a long time ago. Just how strong that diet for fish is still in our hearts, in our mouth. The taste of salmon, the halibut, the trout, those kind of fish. So this song is sometimes called the Chief Song, it's called the Hangman's Song. If you read about history, a guy named Colonel Wright from the area, and he came to seek revenge for the defeat of Colonel Steptoe by the odd forces of Spokane, Cortlandt, Kalispell, some of the Yakimas. They defeated Steptoe and made the U.S. Army retreat. And that was a big embarrassment to the U.S. government and Colonel Steptoe. So when he came to the Northwest, he came to seek revenge because of Steptoe being defeated by warriors that had basically bows and arrows and not any real guns or rifles. So he came to seek revenge and did a lot of real severe things to the people. But the one thing he did was slaughter 800 horses up to the state line. And we haven't viewed that today be a big news story if someone did that day to go and kill 800 horses. He did that because that was Spokane's way of mobility to get around. We call it the horse slaughter area up in the Ottawa and Washington state line. A really sad story that happened. But anyway, the story goes that the warriors turned themselves in because Colonel Steptoe Colonel Wright had taken some chiefs and people captive. So being a wanderer, the warriors came in to hopefully get a fair hearing for a trial, but within minutes they were going to be hung. So one story goes that they asked one warrior if he had anything to say, he said no. They got a second warrior, he had anything to say, he said no. The third one said no, but he had a song to sing. So I say, imagine you being that warrior, knowing that when you finish a song, your life will end. The song could be his prayer song, his medicine song, his death song. But I think the song reached out and touched the hearts like Deb, Carol, Darlene, other people that work for a tribe, preserving language, culture, in forestry, in fisheries, and gaming, trying to keep they speak with the animals, fish, the deer, the elk. The gaming department, they do their part. The people in the forestry try to avoid any clear cuts. So they're, in a sense, trying to respect the land as much as they can, but still harvest timber, still harvest fish and game, but try to put limits and not have them go out in a few short years. But I think the song we shall touch many people that are trying to revive the language in other tribes. Just a couple weeks ago, we heard. A couple weeks ago, we had a language conference at Sage School. A guy from Hume Silver that taught this morning now. There's only 3 of them left that doesn't speak the language anymore. But they were here to give a talk to the people out here that they themselves took themselves to stand up and try to teach the young kids their language. The language is who you are. If you hear the others speak sometimes, they can speak in a way to touch your heart. You can tell a story in English, but when you tell it in Salish, Spokane, it just you can just mad and get more feeling of the story when they speak in their own language called Salish. So I'm glad many tribes are having learning schools and programs to revitalize and bring back language to Indian people. It's a beautiful thing to witness here people by nephew talk, other young teachers are speaking. It's just really good to be around people that are using the language. But this is a song that was sung, been passed down to honor veterans, to elders, those that achieve good things with the tribe. It was sometimes called Chief Song. with a hangman's song. But again, imagine, if you will, this warrior with news runs in neck, wondering what will happen to these people in the future. But luckily, salmon are maybe coming back, language may be coming back again. So a lot of good things are happening. As long as you go yet, we've lost a lot of things. We lost this land area, land base. We've still got a piece of land we call it Plastuli, or reservation. So there's, we're happy to have what we have. We could have nothing. We have to be happy with what we have left to make the best of it. So we sing this song to honor all of you for being here, for veterans. I myself served in Vietnam with the Army, with the Stick-Killer unit. So I remember a lot of good memories of good people that were there. Some didn't come back, but one did come back with a lot of mental scars of what they had to do to stay alive in the jungles. My cousin Richard Eli was with the 101st Airborne, back on Hamburger Hill. He come back with a lot of emotional scars of what he had to do to take part in just to stay alive. It's a tough ordeal for him to come back and have to have nightmares and those kind of things that really, take him into his life. It's a tough deal. So we think about those people too that come back. Some with physical injuries and some with emotional scars that had to endure to just to do the job in Vietnam, Korea, or to big wars. So this song we call Chief Song, Hangman Song.
Hey,
So we know that's the Lord's Prayer, we'll say in our language, just to be able to hear the Spokane language. Have with the citizen part, the option, has to well look how we'll just can't play to sweat them. Do it will we can't play. Oh, sheet or talk square to play. Path between play when it's a field. Lord heavens, to Muslim is sky lost means heavens, to Muslim. Try to share the Lord prayer with you as well. So I hope that's all. Thank you.
What's in your heart today? I bring my cousin sister up with me because we share a common bond. And unfortunately, it's as Rusty spoke to, we both have been diagnosed with leiomyosarcoma cancer of the uterus. And it's so rare, and we happen to have the same oncologist, and we learned about it from each other. Fortunately, Darlene is in remission, so that's great. I am not. I'm at 5th stage. And this is a very aggressive cancer. But I am not alone. I'm not the only one from our community who suffers with cancer. We have numerous people who have passed on. We have former workers who started working in the uranium mines that were established in order to address and fight the Cold War and develop weaponry, nuclear weaponry from our lands. Unfortunately, our people didn't know about this. We didn't know what we were up against. We were not told that this was going to be, as Rusty said, the new smallpox. I consider, not only the resource drainage of our lands and the people, the lands across the nation, in order to keep our country safe. We ended up with sacrifice zones for many of the indigenous communities. And one of the things that I do share is that I'm Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, as well as the name Navajo. My mother was full-blooded from the Southwest. And interestingly and ironically, from the Southwest, the Navajos were equally impacted by the uranium resource drainage and are still dealing with it as we are. It gets into our air, it gets into our lands, it gets into our wildlife, it's going into our people. And unfortunately, we don't have the resources to be able to do a lot about it. We have Indian Health Service, who is a governmental arm that doesn't have the level of resources needed to address a community. And that's what we're trying to do is, we have so many things going on, and recently the mining company attempted to try and get deregulation happening in the closure process, because they are reclaiming a mine right now, the Midnight Mine, and they were trying to get some new measures with EPA to deregulate the closure process, something that they'd already agreed to in the lawsuit. And the people came together, we came together, and began addressing these concerns. We were kind of in hiatus for about 4 years. But when we heard that the company was doing these things, we pick it up again and start gathering the people. And this latest round since last October, we've been able to move the non-native organizations, and they've come on board to help us. So we thank those organizations who share concerns about what's happening for our people. And as Carol said, we all share a common value, which is peace. We've always wanted peace. Unfortunately, that hasn't come to us. And for those of you who have been out there in the trenches fighting for the rest of the lives of our people in this country, I do wholeheartedly thank you. Because knowing that there's still the emotional baggage that comes back with some of the things that you've witnessed and the things that you've experienced. And so I really wholeheartedly thank you for the work that you're doing. And I value that we're looking at peace for humanity, because we're up against some strange occurrences in our time with Trump, with the deregulation, with the greed that is happening in spite of how damaging it is to the rest of humanity. And for that, today, as we sit here with each other, we also are putting our own stakes in the ground. We're putting our staff with our histories and prayers out to our ancestors, because we all have them, who did the best they could so that we could all be here today, that we could all be here for those who are still coming. And that's vital in terms of looking at how do we affect change. And our people looked forward 7 generations ahead in order so that we can be here. And today, an obligation for me is that do what we can in order to ensure that those of the future generations have the same levels of opportunity that we've been provided, because we've been gifted with a world, with water, with the air that's still breathable. We don't know what's coming for all humanity. And so it's within these gatherings, and it's within the spread of, as Carol said, the love and the joy and the peace within ourselves to be able to help ourselves and others. So I heard some good things today, and I am so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful that you are here. I'm so grateful that you survived, and I'm sorry for all of those who have gone on before us too early for much of the time. But today I ask the Creator that we all take time for ourselves to heal, to do what we need to make sure that the kindnesses in our hearts be bigger than the hatred and the fear that sometimes are carried far too long. I've carried so many of those burdens far too long. And as I look at this time, and my cousin offers me hope. All the time she offers me hope. My cousin Carol, call her Sister Teresa of the Res. Because she is, as she speaks, full of love and kindness for our people. And that is making a difference for the lands and the waters. And we can all walk that same walk and put our stake in the ground for each other, that for humanity. And I know that's what you're all about, is humanity. That we will ensure a future for the next generations. And so I appreciate that I've been invited here today. It's been an honor. But please stand tall, put your stakes in the ground, put them in hard, because we're here for another battle. We're here for the battle of humanity. It's not about lands, and it is about lands, it's about waters, it's about air, but it's also mostly about future generations and what we do with our time as we have. So I was going to try to sing, but I don't know. This is a song. It's called the AIM song, American Indian, which revitalized culture and revitalized people during the 70s to be able to move forward and gather ourselves as we're doing today, so we can have a mindset to move forward in a good way, in a better way, and grab the cultures that we're from, the pieces that our grandparents and our great-grandparents taught us that are meaningful to man, woman, and child, as well as the animals and the waters, the rocks. So bear with me. Peace and lineage.
Around with me to introduce everywhere I go. Thank you everyone for having me. First and foremost, just absolutely honored to be in this lineup of speakers. Could never imagine being in a place like this, and thank you so much for all of your words and for coming to this convention. So, as Hollis mentioned, my name's Kate Burke. I'm on the Spokane City Council, so welcome to our city. And I serve Northeast Spokane, which it happens to be the lowest income neighborhoods and highest diversity, so we tend to be naturally the lost and forgotten about. So you might be asking yourselves why you're here today and why you're here this weekend, what you're going to learn and how you're going to bring that back to your communities. Well, I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of work to do at each level of government. I'll share a story about what's happening here in Spokane and why we need you guys in your local communities. The other day I decided to go out with our cops. We have a program that helps our law enforcement take down campsites where our unhoused folks are living. And they wanted me to go because I seem to be opposed to it. So they thought if I went, maybe I would learn something. Instead, quite the opposite happened. As you can imagine, it was a really traumatic experience for me. We went into a campsite, a gentleman named David, wasn't doing anything except for sleeping in his tent along the river. And the cops woke him up and asked him to get out of the tent, and he immediately said, "It's my constitutional right to be here. I'm not doing anything wrong. I have cleaned up my trash, and I have nowhere else to go." They called that being defensive with them, so they actually handcuffed him.
Why didn't they shoot him?
And this was so hurtful. This is one of our community members that needs our help. They were able to arrest him because he had 2 warrants out for his arrest for a shocker, camping. And they took him to jail and put a 48-hour notice on his tent. In 48 hours, the cleaning department can go back and take his stuff. We must act now. But when the rest of the world doubts, Veterans for Peace build. Because you know, veterans, that we cannot wait. We must act now, especially in times like these. When the violence we once extorted overseas finds its way back home, when the seas themselves are giving away, breaking icebergs, and the ice agents are breaking families apart, we cannot wait for what seems reasonable. Actually, no. We must be reasonable and demand the impossible. And that's why we need you, Veterans for Peace. We need groups that demand government stop the foreign invasion and adventurism, that demands justice for victims of war and works to build a just society. Because without justice, there cannot be peace. And let me assure you, those demands are being heard. Just last year, the Spokane chapter of Veterans for Peace helped me pass a resolution declaring Spokane a nuclear-free zone. And now we're currently working on codifying that resolution into a law. This work could have not happened without that effort. But we cannot rest in our laurels. From the city councils to the Senate, we must, in the words of our Holistagans here, we must work for peace, spend for peace, and diminish anything that silences peace. We must perpetrate peace, communicate peace, meditate for peace, move peace, and imagine peace for the souls of the future. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Rusty is the guy that answered the phone when I looked up peace in the phone book in 1991, about to go to war against Iraq. So it's really an honor to be anywhere he is and to be here with you. And particularly, I just feel so humbled to be here with Carol and Pat and Darlene and Deb. Deb, it's so meaningful to hear you speak and to hear you sing and to think of everything that you have done and the bits I've tried to learn from everything, all your organizing. It's really an honor for me to be in the room with you. And I want to begin by respectfully adding my own acknowledgement that this event is held in the occupied lands of the Spokane people who have stewarded this land through generations, as Deb is referring to now. And I want to pay my respects to elders both past and present. It's just imperative that we counter this doctrine of discovery with the truth about the people who are already here. Continue to resist colonization and to sustain their culture, language, and people. So I am the director of the Peace and Justice Action League of Spokane. I'm getting a phone call on my phone. That's awkward. Okay, here we go. So in our Peace and Justice Action League community, we are united by our deeply held conviction and knowledge that everyday people can accomplish extraordinary things together. And we are united in our commitment to continue to build a movement that is deep enough, broad enough, bold enough, and powerful enough to expose and transform systems of violence and oppression, to build a just and nonviolent world. This year, the Peace and Justice Action League Spokane is celebrating 44 years of independent, bold, community-based organizing right here, right next to Fairchild, right in this occupied territory. Here we are organizing. And we are organizing for peace, for economic justice, for human rights, and we deeply value and love the creative and courageous members of the Spokane chapter of Veterans for Peace. And I don't need to tell any of you, we are in absolutely terrible times of escalating belligerent militarism, misogyny, ideological and structural white supremacy, and white nationalist organizing. And I know that I'm not the only one that can often not see how the hell we go forward in this situation. What I can always see, if I can get still enough, is that the only thing we know is that we make the road together as we go, arm in arm. And I'm really sustained by the vibrant and committed members of our Peace and Justice Action League community. And I was particularly thinking of a member whose funeral I attended this year, Lou Brown, who was a professor of social work, who often asked her students, what qualities are you being called to develop today? It's a generative question. There's always some really hard answer that comes from it. And I think that we are being called to develop the courage to be vulnerable together, the courage to rise together while not knowing what we can actually succeed at or when, no matter how strategic we are, the courage to take on struggles to transform systems of violence and oppression, knowing that if we are brave enough often enough, we will not win every fight, and we sure don't. And that means that as we are rising together, we are being called to risk heartbreak and to actually feel it. As Brene Brown says, to be both brave and brokenhearted, to support each other, to seek to learn, and then do it all again. We are called to develop the courage to see the ways that we ourselves replicate harmful and dangerous systems and practices so that we can build healthy relationships and a healthy movement. We're called to dismantle ideological and structural white supremacy, one of the core foundations of this country that drives our criminal justice system, drives our dominant white culture, drives our national stories about ourselves and what role we are taught this country should have in the world, that makes us so collectively vulnerable to being manipulated into war and exploitation, dehumanization, separating families, deeply internalizing this concept of a racialized other that is to be feared, to be demonized, to be brutalized and subdued. And we're called to dismantle patriarchy and toxic masculinity, which normalizes violence and domination and prohibits vulnerability, authenticity, and accountability. We are called to develop historical consciousness so that we can understand how we got here and how to create new paths as we walk together. And finally, and most vibrantly, I believe we are called to develop community, which, as I learned in labor movement, means if you take one of us on, you take all of us on. Right? Proactive solidarity, showing up and asking what we can do. So in this time of escalated white nationalist ideology and white supremacist policy, warmongering, misogyny, and profit-driven exploitation of people and planet, I see that we all here together and the millions who are not in this room, we will create this path as we walk together. We will be arm in arm and shoulder to shoulder and hand in hand, and we'll follow appropriately when needed. We will find and create ways to defend each other, to care for each other, to recognize the sacredness that we all bring. So thank you very much for coming to Spokane. Thank you for coming together, and thank you for letting me be part of your event this morning.
Well, we're all here.
No, we're not.
Hi, Jenica. Welcome, everybody, to the Veterans for Peace Convention in Spokane, Washington. So great to see so many good friends and fellow activists. The theme of this year's convention could not be more timely. Sacred land, sacred lives, peace knows no borders. This is our challenge in a time when it often seems as if nothing is sacred and war knows no borders. We in Veterans for Peace are only too aware that the future of human civilization itself is in great peril. Not the distant future, but the immediate future. We are facing two existential threats: climate catastrophe and nuclear war. Seems as if they are in a race to see which one will get us first. We have a president and political leadership who are doing little to nothing to address climate change, and who are busy tearing up vital nuclear arms treaties and restarting a dangerous arms race. U.S. troops continue to fight in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, elsewhere, too many places, and the U.S. is creating conditions for a war against Iran. U.S. regime change operations have been renewed in this hemisphere. National Security Advisor and warmonger John Bolton has labeled Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba as the troika of tyranny that have met their match in the Trump administration. U.S. intervention is evolving into a hybrid warfare that combines threats of direct intervention, massive regime change propaganda, promotion of internal chaos and conflict in the target countries, and economic warfare. The word sanctions does not really do justice to how the U.S. is systematically strangling the economies of Iran and Venezuela. Aside from withholding U.S. trade and aid, the Trump administration is pressuring international lending institutions not to lend funds for infrastructure improvements and other necessities. Countries, companies, and banks that dare violate the U.S. economic blockades will be cut off from doing business in the U.S. and punished in other ways as well. A study by the Center for Economic and Policy Research recently revealed that 40,000 Venezuelans have died as a result of the U.S. economic blockade, which is not only targets Venezuela's vital oil production, but it also, and remember, Venezuela's got the largest reserves of oil, no coincidence there, but it also makes it difficult for Venezuela to buy much needed foods and medicines on the international market. Veterans for Peace must oppose this economic warfare just as we oppose military intervention. One of our members is setting a very good example in that regard by doing all she can to bring attention to the policy of U.S. economic warfare and the devastation it visits upon children in the targeted countries. A World War II veteran, possibly our oldest member at 94 and a half years of age, she has been fasting for several months now to bring attention to the travesty of these so-called sanctions. Let us all show our appreciation for Sally Alice Thompson. Sally Alice! Sally Alice went without any food at all for, I don't know, a week or 10 days until she started losing her mind. And then And then she decided to maintain a daily fast by skipping her lunchtime meal. So she's been doing that for quite a couple months now, I think. And she reports that she gets pretty hungry every day at midday. And she encourages people to join her in fasting if they're so moved. But more importantly, she wants us to sign an online petition she has on change.org. It's called, you can go there at change.org and look for FAST, F-A-S-S, Fast Against Sanctions and Sieges. So thank you so much, Sally Ellis, for showing that example. I'm sure a lot of people will want to talk to you about it. I also want to give a shout out to Ireland Veterans for Peace, who are doing so much to support U.S. VFP members Ken Mayers and Tara Koff, who are not being allowed to leave Ireland. As you may know, that Ken and Tara protested at Shannon Airport in Ireland. It's a civilian airport, a neutral island that has been used and abused by the U.S. military and CIA for years now as a fueling stop on ways to wars in Afghanistan, the Middle East, and Africa. So this is another front in the worldwide struggle against U.S. militarism that Ireland VFP has taken the lead on. Closer to home, I want to acknowledge the presence of Chuck DeWitt and Peter Aronson of Humboldt Bay Veterans for Peace, who are responsible for the rebuilding and rebirth of the Golden Rule Peace Boat. Stand up, Peter and Chuck, if you can. And Chuck actually coordinated the reconstruction of the boat. And Peter and the Humboldt Bay chapter have raised thousands of dollars for the Golden Rule Peace Boat, and including donating our much appreciated lifeboat. And then, while I'm at it, I should give a shout out to my partner Helen Jacquard, who's the coordinator, project coordinator for the Golden Rule, and never gave up on that little boat until it finally made its way across the Pacific Ocean recently, 20-day voyage from San Diego to Hilo, Hawaii. That's the first leg of a Pacific voyage to challenge nuclear madness and militarism. And a shout out to Ann Wright, who's been a huge support in Hawaii. So a couple of other notes before I pass the baton here. Every year, a number of VFP members pass from this earth. Some years we're reading 30, 40 names. Don't know how many it'll be this year. But we like to honor our past members with a presente at the banquet on Saturday evening. So if you know a member who's passed this year, and I know several who were good friends, please give their name to Barry Reish at the Minneapolis-St. Paul VFP Chapter 27 table in the hallway. And Barry, are you here? So that's Barry. So we don't want to forget anybody. So if that's important. I was told there's one place in the convention booklet that could fool people. There's at least one place in the booklet where it says that the afternoon workshops are beginning at 12:15. That's actually our lunchtime. So what time do the afternoon workshops are actually beginning at what time?
1:50.
1:50, right, okay. So don't be fooled.
Correct in the small.
Right, it's correct in several other places in the booklet too, I saw. And then finally, I wanted to remind everyone that the board and staff of Veterans for Peace are committed to making sure that our convention is a safe space and welcoming space for all. And please make sure you treat everybody with understanding and respect. Every year we hear of instances of sexual harassment or unwanted touching, causing discomfort and trauma sometimes. Remember that not everybody is expecting a big bear hug from you. So get their permission first. And if you witness inappropriate behavior, please discourage it if you feel comfortable intervening and can do so effectively, or report it to designated members of the board and staff. We have several people actually. Garrett, maybe when you're up, or Michael, you can name those designated people, but you can certainly come to any staff person or board member, and including me, and bring that to our attention, and we'll try to address it. Like I say, we are committed to, 99% of us behave very well every year, but nonetheless, instances do happen, so it's important for us to continue to be proactive in addressing them, and we will. With that in mind, I'm sure you will all be on your best behavior and enjoy one another's company as we recommit ourselves to struggling for peace at home and peace abroad. Have a great convention.
Hello, everybody. I had some stuff written down to say. I don't think I'm going to be able to say it all because we got to go. But there's some things that I do want to say because this is the last time. Actually, I'm not the executive director anymore. This Garrett is. But I guess this is in some ways the last time I'll be addressing you somewhat as that person. Some things over the many years I joined in 2003, at least from my perspective, and I learned from Klein about building coalitions, is that Veterans for Peace has a family. And I say that as a family is that we have Military Family Speak Out. We're kind of like an umbrella organization for Military Family Speak Out, About Face, Iraq Veterans Against the War, and VVAW. And when I say that, I mean all the different iterations of VVAW that there are. Our friends and our family and the associate members who have always been an important part of Veterans for Peace. And that's what makes our conventions an awesome place every year, that all these people come together every year to share with each other, to laugh with each other, to learn, and to cry together, and scheme together, and figure out how we're going to work for peace and justice. And that's a tremendous thing. I want to give our associate members a really huge round of applause from our veterans, because without you, we wouldn't be able to function as the organization that we are. Many of our chapters just would totally be dysfunctional without our associate members. I wasn't saying that to be funny. It's what it is. Also, I do curse, so I'll just say it. Sometimes we're assholes as veterans, and and you all put up with us. So I appreciate it. We all need to appreciate that. I'm not sure what the laughter is about. I'm real serious. I also want to thank all of you for letting me have the honor to be the executive director. I didn't have to be picked to do that, and I didn't have to be picked a second time. So you see something in me that you want to at least have me around for whatever reason. I try real hard. I do try to be intentional about the things that I do. I try to discipline myself and try to be a role model. I do that because it was put in me by my mother, but also because if I'm going to work for peace, then that's what I have to do, right? So I do expect that from you all as well, but I appreciate that you see something in me. I was going to go and name all the different presidents and stuff that I've served under or with, so I appreciate all of you, but I'm not going to do that because that takes up time, but I will speak briefly about the staff members: Shelley Rocket, Casey Steiner, Samantha Ferguson, Gail Kano, and Helen Jacquard. I just want to thank them because I would not be able to do what I do or what I did without them. And again, the organization wouldn't be what it is without that backbone. So I really want to thank you. Also, I want to thank Garrett for taking the job because, I'm not the easy one. I did call him up and let him know that it was happening and to hopefully put in his application, and he did. And I'm grateful to the board for picking this person. I spoke to that a little bit last night. I'm really excited about Garrett, and I'm not worried like I was before, which turned out to be good reason to worry. But that's not, I don't need to worry about that anymore. So the importance of Veterans for Peace, I know all of you all, I hope, understand how important we are, but important also means responsibility. We are a product of what we're trying to stop. Most people aren't necessarily a product of what they're trying to stop per se. We are definitely that. We also deal in death. In fact, we were death dealers, either in support of death or we actually took people's lives. As an active duty person, I was an officer in the Army Field Artillery. I was told I was an overseer of destruction of material and personnel. It's a nice way of saying, you know, you kill people. And that's what we were taught how to do. And all of us, no matter what you did, you act in support of that. Now, of course, we are trying to stop that killing, stop this unnecessary death, and protect lives. That's like the opposite of what we were charged to do then. So we have a special charge now because we were the death dealers, and society has bestowed us a high status as heroes. Everyone has some kind of status, right? We have a high status. They tell us that we're heroes. So with high status comes privilege, and we must use that privilege. And I say white people, you need to use your privilege as white people, and men, I'll be clear here because I know I'm black and I'm calling out white people or calling you men. That's what I'm really doing. I'm saying to us men, we have to use our status too, right? To tell, and as veterans, our status and privilege, to be truth tellers and tell truths where we are not expected to tell it, and in places it is not expected for it to be told. Yeah. That is what we have a charge to do. This is why I believe that, well, I also want to say, because we have this status, that our truth is powerful and it's dangerous. It's dangerous to the system. We actually have the ability to make a big difference in a substantial way, and a little bit more than most peace and anti-war organizations do. So that means that we have a huge responsibility. This is why I believe Veterans for Peace is one of the most important organizations in the world. And as we join together as veterans, because we're trying to build an international organization around the world, we have the potential to be one of the most powerful disruptors of injustice and war on the globe. That's a huge responsibility. And in fact, our name, Veterans for Peace, is powerful. It runs many veterans away because they're not prepared to face the truth of what we have done, and they're not ready to do what it takes to be a veteran for peace. And I say that with a small v, a small f, and a small p, because I was trying to be that before I knew anything about you. However, you have shown that you are brave and you are fierce and you dare to challenge yourself and dream of a better world. And I honor you for that, and I thank you for that, and I'll always be one of you. And I'm actually proud to be one of you, even though I'm not really into the pride thing, you know? Because pride is dangerous. Okay? But I have to say I'm proud to be one of you, so thank you. However, I must challenge you to be braver and to do more. We must embrace the greater challenge of being pro-peace and not only anti-war. We're really good at being anti-war, but we're not so good at being pro-peace, and we really need to work on that. And that's why the F in Veterans for Peace is a capital F, and I know around here you see it, the small F. It doesn't look right to me. Klein pounded into my head, so I can't not see that it's got a small F. That it should be a capital F because we're for peace. So please remember that. And when you write Veterans for Peace, write it with capital F. Why? Because peace does not begin with, this is why it's hard to embrace peace and take on this challenge. Because peace does not begin with what others do. It begins with what I do. It begins with what you do individually. It's easy to be anti-war in many ways because we can take our anger and us being mad and call for other people to do something. But it's hard to be pro-peace because it takes self-reflection, it takes intentionality, and it's a challenge to yourself to do better and be better. So when I hurt others, I must hold the responsibility and be humble with the amends. I must be humble. The person doesn't have to forgive me. And they don't have to accept at the beginning that I did them harm and that I'm sorry. I mean, I've been beat up, not physically, but mentally by people I've harmed, and I just took it. And it's interesting how over time, if I just take it so they can see that I'm really sorry, then sometimes they forgive me. And that's how you work for peace as far as I'm concerned. We have to help each other. That's a huge part. We have to help each other, because if we don't help each other, then how do we even know we're doing the right thing? So we must do that. That's the way, the only way we will build a peace and just world. And I just want to say about that, I am trying to deconstruct the world that we're in, but the peaceful and just world is just not going to sprout up, right? It's got to be built. We have to build it. And trying to skip some stuff here. I am not interested in only being anti-war, anti-racist, anti-patriarchal, anti-imperialist, or anti-anything. I'm seeking transformation. That's what I'm seeking. And transformation is hard. Transformation is very difficult. I'm sorry, I just got to tell you this little story real quick. I apologize. I work for an organization called the National Conference for Community and Justice, which once was the National Conference of Christians and Jews. And what we would do, we'd bring people together from various backgrounds, various colors, etc. And we would talk about how all of us carry baggage. All of us, most all of us, oppress somebody in some way. And it's hard to get together and talk about that. But I talked about it with young people. It's interesting. Young people are very much more open than us older people when it comes to truth. And in fact, they're many times seeking that truth. As part of that, we also learned how to call each other out or call each other in. By that, help each other be better. So if I would say something, and I'm working with young people, so they would do this to me as well. If I say something to hurt them or they thought was sexist or racist, they would let me know. And I would have to listen, or they would have to listen to me. And it's interesting, when we built that community, we were helping each other be better. And then when we left the community, we actually had to decompress because we were coming back to the real world. And the real world is hard that people don't want to hear that. You know, so you have to learn how to be careful again. You know, you have to kind of guard against being brainwashed back into the real world. And I guess what I'm asking you is to be able to do that with each other, help each other. Because if we don't help each other, we can't build the world we're talking about having. We just can't. So Veterans for Peace will always do good work. It always has and always will. So that's not the question. These are the questions. Will we live up to our potential? Can we become a model of peace builders that we can really be? They say be all you can be. That's the question for us. That's one of the questions. Can we, who under the threat of violence, now I'm talking to the veterans, who under the threat of violence and coercion were forced to work together and respect rank, right? So can we work together and respect each other because we are humans, not because of force, not because of coercion, and we believe we can build a fair and just world? Can we not only call for accountability and peace from those in power, can we demand it and get it from ourselves and each other? Those are the questions. As A.J. Musty said, there is no way to peace. Peace is the way. Peace is the way. So can we do it, is the question. I believe we can. I believe we will. And as Tone Loc said, which I think shows how old I am and how young I am in this crowd, let's do it. Thanks.
Try to be very quick so we can get these workshops because they're very important. You know, I'm Garrett Reppenhagen, and as of a month ago, I became the Executive Director of Veterans for Peace. You know, I try to be here not in a position of pride, like Michael said. You know, I think that you know, I'm trying to be humble every day. And, you know, and I try to focus, instead of being prideful, to instead focus on the appreciation of the work that everyone's doing and the courage that people are showing, not only to face these hard challenges ahead of us externally out there in the world and the policies that we're trying to change and make the world a better place, but your courage to look inside and change yourselves. It's hard to do that. And you have to do it in a place of vulnerability and expose yourself. And that's probably the most scary thing you can do. And thank you for that. You know, I hear often the sayings, you know, thank you for your service and welcome home. And, you know, I like welcome home better, but what home is that? You know, when I came home and I saw a world where we abuse our most vulnerable populations, we have a stranglehold on systems of power against women and people of color, and you know, we're killing our own communities and attacking them out of fear and bigotry and hatred, and we're destroying our habitats and our environment every day and pushing those externalities on the public to force them to deal with the health consequences and a limiting future for our children and grandchildren. And it's hard to come to a home like that. So again, thank you for all the work that you're doing. And when I say thank you for your service, I don't mean the service in the military. I mean the service you're doing now.
Yes.
So what do we do? Today is the day of workshops and recognition. And try not to celebrate too much, but appreciate the work people are doing and come here to work. Because we made impacts just to be here. Some of us flew on planes or drove in cars, and you know, just being here and existing in this fashion that we're doing has an impact on the land and on ourselves. And you know, when you go into these workshops, don't just go to feel proud of yourselves and the organization. Go in to work and ask the people in these panels what you can do at your home to continue on these campaigns and make changes in your own communities. Go there to be ready to do what needs to be done to bring our mission forward. And you know, I think we'll have great success there. One of the things I was supposed to discuss that I would like to skip, but it's a reality, is we have a changing security issue in this country. And as communities are being attacked and we ally ourselves with needed campaigns to support the movement of Black lives and LGBTQ and our allies that are very critical, we're becoming a target to people of hate. And we may very soon find ourselves there, and members in this audience have already been victims of that. But please watch each other and watch who's coming and going, and be vigilant. We do have a Sentry team, a group of people who have elected to help watch and stay vigilant about people who aren't part of our community coming in looking for trouble. But help them, and if you want to be part of that, seek Brian Sparks and ask what's going on, and he can give you a quick overview of how you can be helpful. But there is a hate group just outside of town this weekend organizing, and you know, we've got to stop things like that from happening, and we've got to change this culture so it doesn't happen. And yeah, it's going to be difficult, but if you want to be part of that, please join in. Michael thanked the staff for the years of dedication and hard work, but they're here this weekend working very hard, and please respect them. And if you have time, ask them how you can help. There's only 4 staff members, and you know, they're doing everything they can. They're under incredible pressure. So if it looks like they haven't gone to lunch or had a break or whatever they need, just ask how you can help, and let them know that you appreciate them. There's a lot of stuff I have to skip as well. You know, thank you, Michael, for your mentorship and preparing me for this role, and continue to make yourself available to me, and allowing me to inherit such a powerful organization. It's because of you. You know, thank the board of directors and thank you members for everything you're doing. I know you're doing great work. I hear every day phone calls and emails of just incredible stuff going on. I can't give attention everywhere, but I'm going to do my best to visit every single workshop today and try to peek in and hear a little bit of what you have to say. Thank you, Spokane Valley and the people of Spokane Valley for having us here. And it's just an honor, and it's just a beautiful place. And you can feel it when you're down by the river, and you can feel it in the air. So thanks for allowing us to be here. And everyone, thank you for your service, and welcome home.